Now for global business updates, freshly returned from Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, is Rotus Oddiri. He joins us now.
Good morning, Dr. Abasi. Good morning, Bimbai. Good morning, Adifemi. And good morning to all our viewers.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back. Oil is the main story for the day. It actually even fell further than the prices reflected because Trump just got done speaking literally minutes ago in Doha, acknowledging the fact that Iran wants to sign a deal with the U.S. in order to lift sanctions. So 64.56, I think it fell to even 63 in the last few minutes. West Texas is down as well. And if you look at I think also yesterday we got crude oil inventories, stockpiles. There's an inverse relationship here. So this is the amount of inventory that the U.S. has, right? So in the prior week, it rose by 3.5 million. So basically, if inventories are rising, that means that the supplies are increasing and it's not that much demand, right? So oil prices usually fall on that, and if it's falling, that means that demand is higher. So it's an inverse relationship. So that shows that there's a growth in supply, right, as far as U.S. oil is concerned. Then you've got the further pressures that I just mentioned with Iran. So Iran has, I think it was NBC that reported it, they are signaling a willingness to do a nuclear deal with the U.S. Trump literally just confirmed it while he was speaking in Doha. So, just a reminder, they do about 3.3 million barrels per day as of March of this year. They want to ramp that up to 4 million, but the sanctions have really crippled them. And so Trump has said, listen, he just said, there's no need for a 30-page document, just one sentence: Iran cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. You already talked about him meeting the new leader in Syria, lifting sanctions there. So prices are basically, if sanctions are lifted and they get to add more barrels of oil to an already oversupplied market, which is, getting oil supplies from non-OPEC members like the US, Brazil, Canada, that of course, traders now are looking at possibly $50 oil. So that's of course has its ramifications for oil producers. Still, on the oil matter, you've already reported on this. Aliko Dangote meeting with President Trump in Doha, with the emir there as well. He's an oil refiner, so of course Dangote would love to see lower oil prices because that is the largest input in terms of raw crude that he purchases in order to refine, to give us the downstream products that we use. So so Dangote is fine with lower oil prices. Now for Nigerians, lower oil prices are a tax cut, right? And I would expect that with the trajectory that because oil is down almost 13% so far this year. So we should be seeing lower oil prices. PMS prices, diesel and the likes, all the derivatives. If it's, really following market moves and so on, oil, fuel prices should be falling even further here in the country and pretty much around the world. The only issue is the other side of the coin. Part of what Trump was talking about a few minutes ago was Qatar's large purchase of airplanes from Boeing. Boeing's new CEO was there at the press conference, and they're saying most of these are defense contracts to the tune of about 243 billion that he says have been signed in terms of deals with the Qataris. I was listening to you guys talking about the gift, that big plane that he's getting from them. So that's part of it. I think his next is the UAE. Should be the third leg. Oil prices, Asian stocks are pretty mixed in early trading this morning. I think what is alarming the markets is the US 10-year Treasury is at 4.5, and so if bond yields in the US are rising, it means US debt is getting more expensive, and there's an inverse relationship between buying and selling bonds and the yield. So if a lot of investors are selling a bond, their demand is falling and then the yield rises. So I think it's spooking folks. They want more details on this China-US deal that has been talked about. And so markets, and even US stock futures are even down as well as we speak. So the markets just want a little more. I think we're getting CPI, PPI numbers on the US later today, retail sales, I think, as well. There's a lot to digest later on today. What else is happening? The UK, the GDP figures just came out early this morning, encouraging for the Starmer administration. 0.7% in the first quarter of this year, beating forecasts of 0.6 and higher than what we saw in the fourth quarter of 2024. And that is pretty much what we have. In fact, I think still in the UK, Benga Komolafe, CEO of the upstream, the NUPRC, Petroleum Regulatory Commission, gave a speech at an energy summit in the UK on oil and gas. So it's just oil and gas everywhere as far as headlines are concerned and what that means for respective economies.
I want to know what oil and gas situation was like in Ivory Coast, actually, because you are someone who obviously travels a lot for work. I know that you almost always rent a car when you travel abroad. Did you do so on this trip? And did that have any impact? Actually, like, what was that experience like?
Yeah, I didn't rent on this particular trip because the hotel was the Sofitel hotel where they hosted everybody was pretty close to where we're staying. But essentially, the CFA franc, though, the currency in the Ivory Coast, has appreciated. So now it was like trading at 600 plus levels. It's now down to 500 because the US dollar has been weakening against a number of currencies because of investor sentiment around volatility and so on. So in fact, I went to a Burger King there and I was going to do a purchasing price comparison with a burger here in Nigeria and there. I'll do that later because I took a picture of it. But yeah, their currency has appreciated though, which is good for them in terms of bringing down inflation and making things a little more affordable for folks in Ivory Coast.
Interesting.
All right. Well, speaking of currency, Bismarck Rewane's last breakfast meeting with the Lagos Business School was looking at oil price and its implications on the Naira exchange. So he had said anything below $50 or below will give us an exchange rate of 1,800 to 1,900. He said if we're between $50 and $60, we're looking at 1,700 and 1,800. So it looks like we're slipping to that place where we hoped we wouldn't have to go to. And now the question is, can we afford to manage or defend, whatever you want to call it, the Naira, given this context? Because it seems we're still praying for the best, as we do. Nothing wrong with prayer, but it seems that we're still praying for a best case scenario, but we're not really moving in an agile way to kind of start countering the very real prospect of a very, very, very low oil price. However, congratulations are in order because I hear that the Nigeria-Brazil engagement is bearing fruit and Petrobras is set to return after divesting in 2017. Looks like they'll be investing again in some deep water acreage. So there's positive developments to also celebrate.
It is. And the thing is, what's saving us now is the weakness in the US dollar. Because if you add oil prices where they are, plus a strengthening dollar, that would even make it worse for our currency. So that's the counterbalance that's actually saving the currency from further depreciation.
Okay, very quickly. It's to be expected that the course of President Trump's trip to the Gulf states, that oil would definitely dominate, part of the discussion. Now, President Trump has consistently said he wants low energy prices. He wants the price of oil to go down. Now, in response to that, I guess, is why OPEC Plus ramped up production. By June, they will have reached the point of about additional 600,000 barrels per day. And now, with these negotiations with Iran that President Trump talks about, it means if Iran comes back into the market, and you know that before now, earlier this year, President Trump had threatened that anybody that buys oil from Iran will be sanctioned. And if they say they are negotiating and Iran, comes back and they have a deal, it means price of oil will go down further. Very quickly, you have said, well, in the long term, low cost of crude oil, spot price, will mean lower PMS. That's for us ordinary people. But the bigger challenge will be with regard to the 2025 budget.
That's right. Which
has a benchmark of $75, per barrel.
Right.
Now, if oil sells below $60, where are we going to get a fund to, and that's why, we've been talking about fiscal deficit and why the World Bank says the 2025 budget is overambitious. However, the Boeing deal, Qatar says it to buy 210 jets, and President Trump has been boasting about that. It looks like a lifeline for Boeing, which has been having very serious problems. But after that, what follows in the real sense of it. But Trump can boast he has a $600 billion deal from Saudi Arabia. He has a $200 billion deal from Qatar. Only God knows what he will boast about later today in the UAE. Finally, UK economy. They say it has grown by 0.7%, 0.1% higher than what was projected. But it's not something to celebrate.
Indeed.
We have seen the British economy going up and down since the end of COVID-19. But Downing Street is excited. Rachel Reeves is saying this is a strong economy. If they sustain it, then it will make sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you.